Texas, hey, back in the top 25, right? So they got the boot. And then they got it done in a game that it wasn't really the most exciting and pretty thing to watch, except for that it is one of the biggest rivalries. And mad respect for just watching that. I think I've watched the game before. I just have to say, I don't know if they just did a really nice job. ABC did of just like capturing everything that entailed with the all the hoopla and the events that happened there with the state fair. But what a weekend there for that game. Kind of what's the fallout? What's the conversation that's taking place with right now with this Texas team?
Yeah, right before his interview post game with ESPN, Arch Manning looked at Holly Rowe and was like, "We needed this one, Holly," and you could tell like it was such a sigh of relief for Arch for that Texas offense. And it was kind of weird going into the half. Texas was down 6-3, but I think everyone from a Texas perspective was like, "Wow, this is great." You know, the offense didn't look great, but they were moving the ball well. They had a long field goal off the goalpost, and the defense looked much better. So for me, those were the two biggest things. The defense was way improved against John Mateer, who was, a bit hobbled with the hand injury we were speaking about last week, but for all intents and purposes, looked to be decent enough to be able to move the ball. And then the running game as well. Texas running backs had not had a run for more than 18 yards all season before Oklahoma, and this is against three of the worst teams you've ever seen, UTEP, Sam Houston, and San Jose State. So they finally broke out last week. Trey Wisner was the bell cow running back, so that really opened things up for the offense. And there's so much confidence for this Texas team now as they head on the road to Kentucky. And they've had a tough schedule so far. For me, I think the biggest question, and I think you guys would be good people to talk to about this because you know the conference as a whole, is if Texas could stand to lose one more game and still make the playoff, which I think a lot of people will say no right away. But if you think about it, let's say they lose to their toughest games the rest of the way are at Georgia, home against Vanderbilt, and then home against Texas A&M. Let's say they lose on the road at Georgia. Yeah, Florida's probably not a good loss. But this would be a Texas team that would win a couple SEC road games, Kentucky, Mississippi State, home against Texas A&M, who's top 5, against Oklahoma as well, against Vanderbilt. So I think the path is there for Texas. And obviously right now they're just focused on Kentucky, but I like to think big picture as well. And I think things are kind of lining up for this Texas team.
Personally, and your heart, I mean, I want everyone's take on your question because you presented a really, really good one. There's no doubt is who will be there in the end for the SEC. And I think that when we enter this season, there's no doubt the number one ranked team, preseason ranked team in the country, Texas. Everyone expected it to be them. I think that right now, like you said, Noah, if they drop another game, I don't see a path for what that could look like, to be honest with you. And the way that I view it is that if the SEC is going to get 4 teams, 2 of them are going to come from the conference championship game. So the way I view that is it's probably going to be either an undefeated SEC team or a 1-loss SEC team that are in those 2 games. So then you're looking at Texas being a 2-loss team, being the 3rd or 4th best SEC resume that's there. And if they're going to do the body of work, which, what does that even mean? You never know. Everyone sits here and says, when you're hot, you're hot. And then they look at the last, 3 weeks, what have you done there? So it kind of goes out the window. But if you look at the body of work, it ain't like Texas has, sat there and impressed anybody in the last, good little minute. So to me, I think Texas is in a really, really, really tough spot. I don't think they can afford another loss because I think they will not be playing for a conference championship, and I don't think they will be a part of the conversation. That's my personal opinion, but I'd certainly anything could happen.
I don't think so either, but it's for a bit of a different reason because I think if you are a 3-loss team, and Texas might have the brand to be able to do this, Notre Dame might have the brand to be able to do this that other schools would not have. And if it is that way, it's going to be because of the branding and maybe all the outlier stuff. But you think about Alabama last year. They were a 3-loss team. They had the brand. Nobody could unsee the Oklahoma game where they scored 3 points and they looked terrible. I don't know if people will be able to unsee the Florida game if they lose this weekend to Mississippi State and they fire Billy Napier and the wheels fall off there. Losing that game to Florida is the killer. In the weirdest way, I think if you flipped it and you would have beat Florida and lost to Oklahoma, then there is a path, in my opinion, if Oklahoma continues to play well, there is a path for a 3-loss Texas team to get in.
Those losses get more attention, good or bad. Those losses get more attention than wins do. Yeah. I agree with that.
Yeah, it's just a battle of, like you said, at the end of the year, it's like, okay, how many good wins does this team have? How many bad losses do they have? Because the Ohio State loss, obviously, I don't think anyone's going to call a bad loss on the road against the reigning national champs. Then if they lose to Georgia as well, which they're going to be an underdog in that one, I know Alabama did it, and Texas is going to have to get a lot better in order to beat Georgia on the road. But that Florida game, I am interested to see what happens there. And it is always kind of hindsight, because the team you played that week for Texas, and I feel like I sound like a Texas believer right now, and like I don't want to sound like that at all, but like the team they played that week was hungry, talented, and a lot healthier than they had been. And with the schedule Florida has, like that's not going to be the case. If those losses keep stacking up and the injuries keep stacking up as well, and you lose your head coach possibly, yeah, it's going to look a lot different. But that team that week, with the way Dallas Wilson played in his first game, Lagway looked a lot more comfortable, and Texas just obviously it was a bad game for them. I don't think it's as bad a loss as it's going to be made out to be. But Gerhard, I agree with you that if things go south for Florida, that is going to be a big red flag on their resume.
I think, and this is just my honest opinion, and you're probably not going to want to hear this as a Texas guy.
He's a Maryland guy, first of all.
Well, yeah, first of all, a Maryland guy, but you cover Texas.
Get the facts straight.
If a 3-loss team makes the college football playoff, it's one team and one team only, and it's the Oklahoma Sooners. Because if they lose 2 more games but still win, say, against Ole Miss and Alabama.
Bro. Head-to-head. There's no way. Bring us back up on camera. I'm not trying to argue you down. This is all I'm going to say about this, though.
Okay.
There's a lot that the committee can do. There's a lot of wheeling and dealing.
Yeah.
There's a lot of under the table, a lot of smack talk none of us will ever see. But straight up, head-to-head, if they're 3-loss Texas and 3-loss Oklahoma, and quite frankly, I'm glad you brought up 3 losses because I had forgotten about the Ohio State loss because it was like 400 years ago, and I was going to offer that there's no way they're in at 3 losses. I don't think 3 losses teams. I just don't think they're in the conversation. The only thing I could think about was Florida. When you're talking about losses, I'd forgotten about Ohio State. And if they lose, I think they're completely on the outside and just asking for a prayer. A 3-loss Oklahoma, P. Walsh, and I love you to death, my guy, and a 3-loss Texas when they've played each other. They played each other on the field. There's no way. And correct me if I'm wrong, guys. If there's no way you put in Oklahoma, I don't get body work. I mean, I don't care, what you've done to your body. Plastic surgery, what you've done. If you beat them on the field, there's no way you put them in. I don't care what the wins look like. Straight up, you beat them.
Yeah, I think it will go back to head-to-head in that case.
Yeah, I also wanted to add, this year's SEC, I was talking to Roger about this. It's, in my opinion, much deeper than it was last year. And right now there's like a clear upper echelon with like A&M, Ole Miss, in my opinion, like Alabama and Georgia. I think everybody would agree like that's like the 4 right now. But there's not as many like surefire wins as there were last year. I think we've talked about that early when we went big picture on this Texas schedule. So the SEC could cannibalize itself. And when that happens, there could be, 2 teams in the SEC championship that each have 2 losses and then a bunch of other teams with 3. So Texas losing 3, if it was last year, yeah, they're probably not going to get in. But I do think with the depth of the conference this year, I mean, we're talking about Texas, only having 1 loss. They could lose any of the games on the rest of their schedule. I could see them losing this week to Kentucky, on the road at Mississippi State, Vanderbilt.
No, if we're going to get crazy, I hope you're not asking about playoffs at that point.
No, but I'm just saying the SEC is much deeper this year, where there's yes. So I think there's a chance that these teams that are at the top. I mean, I don't have A&M schedule in front of me, but like I'm sure it's going to get ridiculous. They have to go on the road to Texas to finish the year. So there's a chance that like no teams finish with 0, maybe even 1 losses in the SEC as well.
Yeah.
Sure.
I mean, I believe in parallel universes, as in like almost every outcome is out there somewhere, and in none of them is Kentucky beating Texas. So I think Texas is fine this week. You mentioned the defense. This defense to me has been like championship level, and I watched it very closely last week because I'll just be honest. I bet one football game last week. It was Texas minus 2.5, and they got me the win. And one of the things I really felt watching that defense play very closely is just how fast they are. This reminds me of like one of the quickest defenses laterally, and LSU's really good too, but this defense to me just seems like it's almost a leg above almost every other defense that I've seen so far. Do you think with that said, they almost kind of give Arch a few mulligans game to game because the defense is so strong going into that matchup? And I'm not bypassing Kentucky, but I kind of am, but just moving forward down the road, how much do you think this defense will impact what the offense does game to game?
Dude, first of all, why are you such a Kentucky hater? What did the Wildcats do to you?
I just
good program.
and
He's bet
I'm
somewhere
really-
in there. It's got to be on his pocket. It's the only time it gets personal.
No. With Kentucky, I feel like the Mark Stoops message has now been watered down. I feel like this team hasn't listened to him. There's like 60 new players on this football team. I think all of them have one eye out. It's hardly probably a contention not even make a bowl game. That is a basketball city, a basketball town, a basketball school. I think they've already all moved on. I just think from an energetic perspective, Kentucky's just kind of just mentally checked out. Not that they're bad, they're just mentally checked out.
I hear you. And then on the other question about Texas's defense, yeah, that was the whole message that Texas fans were preaching. The Texas team was preaching early this season when the offense was struggling. It's like they'll be in every game because that defense is so good. But then the way they performed against Florida, where they just got gashed on the ground, and the defensive front had been so well, that was the worry. It's like, oh, if they're going to be that on defense, then Arch is going to have to not just be like a game manager, but be very good. So the way they came back last week was pretty impressive. And I want to kind of hit on specifically, you mentioned the speed. Grayson Littleton, just a true freshman in the back end for this Texas team, had another interception last week against Oklahoma. The depth and talent in the Texas defensive back room for the last couple of years has been unbelievable. A guy that was a second-round draft pick last year, Andrew Makuba, with the reigning Super Bowl champion Philadelphia Eagles, was not really starting last year for Texas until there was an injury, Derek Williams, and then he got a starting job and then became a second-round NFL draft pick. This year, there's so much talent. There's a preseason All-American in Michael Taft as well. And then they have this true freshman that Sark and company kept talking about. The first 5 times I'm like, he's talking about someone that's not this true freshman I've never heard of before. But he was right. This guy's unbelievable. Again, Grayson Littleton. So for him to make the impact he's having on this Texas defensive back room is incredibly impressive. And yeah, this defense is fast. And when they're on, they are probably one of the top 5 defenses in the country. And that's something they've been the last couple of years. And they just had that, it looks like, one blip game against Florida.
Yeah, and honestly, it's guys like there can be pieces of the puzzle. Even though there's so many dudes you feel that a lot in basketball, of course, when you just don't have as many guys that it takes to obviously play the game in and of itself. But there are times I feel like we have seen, even in this league, not just a quarterback, where you can insert somebody and they can make such a profound impact that it really does kind of turn the tide. And I do think that when it comes to game, when you can get the monkey off your back and you can get a rivalry win, it's almost like you can take a deep breath. Okay, you got through the one that everyone's going to remember you for, good, bad, or ugly, and now everything else can just kind of become like maybe a sigh of relief. What do you feel like just kind of the messaging has been maybe on that part of it? Do you feel like this team has hit a little bit of a rhythm is not the word, but like this is a shot in the arm in terms of confidence and what it can look like?
That's exactly what Sark was talking about this week. He was asked, like, is there a sigh of relief? And I think there was a quick one, but he was like, no, I've seen an incredibly determined team. Arch Manning said what they learned from the Florida game is, like, you kind of want to practice like you're coming off a loss every single week. And, like, that was a win that they needed. But they've been talking about how everyone said they were so bad after Florida. Now everyone's saying they're so great. So, yes, I think they're hitting more of a rhythm. But this is still a team that knows that there's a lot in front of them. They give the cliche that they've given for 4 years, and I mean, probably longer than that. I've just heard it for 4 years, that every week is an SEC championship game, and it usually say it after a loss. So they've been saying that now. But yeah, this team is kind of in a spot where they responded. They were incredibly proud of the way that they came back last week. Sark said post-game there was a lot of expletive being talked about our team, and for them to respond shows a lot about their character. So I agree with him. That was an incredible response to that Texas team, but I'm going to have to see more. Apparently Kentucky's like the worst team in college football, so maybe not this week, but maybe
Gerhard's told you, despite the color of shirt he has on, that's how he feels about it.
I do.
Man.
I will trust you there.
I know we got a chance to hear from Steve Sarkisian about punt returner Ryan Niblett after returning one of those punts against Oklahoma that really turned the tide of the game. Let's take a listen.
Ton of credit to Ryan. But like a lot of these guys, they all, when they get here, they all want to be that freshman that's starting. And they've all got a bunch of stars, and they've all been the best players in Little League and in high school and all that. And you get here and you get in our locker room, they're all really good players. And he was a really kind of versatile player in high school. He played running back, he played wildcat quarterback, he played receiver. And so when we got him here, it was like, we just got to try to figure out what is his role. And he went from receiver to running back to defense in spring back to receiver. Now he's dueling running back and receiver. He's returning punts. He's returning kickoffs. He's an elite special teams player on kickoff coverage. He's probably the best kickoff cover guy we have. But I think it's the selfless nature that he has. He's an awesome teammate, and I credit him because there was moments when he was thinking about leaving this place, and I didn't let him leave. I fought to keep him here because of, one, the player that he is, but two, I think he's a glue guy when it comes to our culture.
No, I know you get to cover Texas, so you get to see a little bit more behind the scenes about Ryan and other guys on this team. But what have you been able to make about his growth? Obviously, he had the big touchdown in the game, but so far for this season in general.
He's somebody that Starks talked about almost every week and being like, got to get Ryan Niblett more touches, got to get Ryan Niblett more touches. And I remember last year, it was one of the early games. They were just winning by like 50 points, and he got a touchdown at the end. It was called back, and then he scored again. And you could tell, even on the one that was called back, like he celebrated like crazy. Like he just beat Alabama in the fourth quarter. So he's a guy that's like been itching to get on the field, and he is explosive. But I just kind of always doubted a little bit because he is like very much on like the scrawnier side of a football player, even for a skill position guy. He kind of reminds me of like, I think he's probably even shorter than Xavier Worthy, of course, now with the Kansas City Chiefs. So maybe not quite as fast as like his 4.2 flat time, but Niblett's a guy that Starks believed in, and like something I've learned, especially this year, is like when Stark talks about a guy a lot, keeps bringing up a name, even when it's seemingly not a starter, like listen to him. So Niblett's a guy that I think is going to continue to be involved in the offense. I also wanted to say freshman James Simon, a running back, I think is going to get his first career touchdown this week against Kentucky, whose run defense has been a little bit leaky. So he's a younger guy that Starks talked about a lot as well. So I think those two guys are guys to watch in the backfield, as C.J. Baxter's still out with a hamstring injury. And they fed Trey Wisner a ton last week, 22 rushes. But that's because, according to Steve Sarkisian, he just got hot, and they just kept going to him. Their plan was to get more guys involved, so there could be more Niblett and more James Simon this week on the road.
This Texas team is obviously has 2 losses, and they've been on the road 2 times. They've been to the Shoe at Ohio State, and they went to the Swamp in Florida. Is there like a renewed effort to play better on the road this upcoming week? Because that actually factors in my handicap.
Yeah, I mean they've been such a good road team the last couple of years. It started with the Alabama win in 2023. Then they won at Michigan in dominating fashion last year. The Michigan team wasn't what we all thought they would be, but still, that was an impressive win. And that's been like a big thing for this Texas team, is the road success. They hadn't lost on the road in a long time. The Ohio State one I thought was kind of a one-off, but yeah, they were a different team in Florida. That was not a Texas team I've seen since probably 2022. So I would still be confident. I'm iffy on a lot of things with this Texas team, but them being a good road team is not something I'm worried about right now. If they struggle this week against a Kentucky team that is certainly on the bottom tier of the SEC, maybe that's a bit of a worry. But I think right now that's still a strength for Texas.
I'm worried for you, my guy, because you're going to have divided loyalties. 2 6 o'clock kickoffs. We're going to have Texas.
Every week, Simone.
Why are they doing this to you? I don't understand it.
It's remarkable. Every single week they play at the exact same time. It's frustrating.
That's unbelievably frustrating for you. Of course, trying to balance Texas at Kentucky, and then Maryland up against UCLA, both kicking off at 6 p.m. What are you going to do? I mean, split screen? Do you have to work? Are you off? What are you doing? Chilling?
If you're working, can you just turn those 2 monitors behind you in one of each game?
Exactly. Get some wings.
Quick story time. I don't hope no Texas fans are listening to this, but like a couple weeks ago, Roger came. He does radio for Texas. He came back from the Florida game and was like, Texas and Maryland had played at the same time. This is when Maryland choked against Washington. I know it was it's hard to keep track of all these losses.
I texted you about this. Yes.
Yes, you did. And Roger was talking about the game. He's like, man, that Taft interception late was crazy, or something about the Taft interception. And I was thinking in my head, I'm like, Taft had an interception? And then I just realized that during that moment was when Maryland was totally collapsing and I was focused on the wrong TV. So I was not being a very good professional there.
You know what? Listen, sometimes you just got to be dialed in.
It's that way.
So it looks as though, before we let you go, UCLA is a 3-point favorite in this game. Is that right?
They're hard. That's your lock of the week.
That's the guarantee
Bruins to cover.
Yeah. I'm gonna lock that bad boy in right now.
Yeah, enjoy, my friend.
Send me your Venmo for some commission, some finder's fees.
The UCLA path to the Big Ten championship is still alive. That's all I'm gonna say.
Dude,
That is nuts.
Listen.
anybody that's got the Terps on their schedule is in good shape right now.
You know what? I can't wait to bring it back next week when Maryland turns it around and they get it done.
Yeah.
And you know, and
Don't.
they get right.
Don't even bring that positivity into my life right now. I don't want it.
He's done with it. Noah Gross,
Yeah.
appreciate your time, man. Sorry for keeping up your entire afternoon, but it's always a good
Yeah.
one when we have the guys from Austin joining the show. So appreciate it, man. I cannot wait to be texting you sometime Saturday evening and probably talking crap about something. So looking forward to that.
All right. Thank you, guys.